Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with Rethink Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode number 121. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at Rethink Coaching, and as always, thank you for sharing your time with me. Time truly is our greatest asset, and the fact that you're willing to give and share your time with me truly does mean a lot and does not go unnoticed. Welcome to this week's podcast. I want to talk today about something that I think is really important for us to evaluate and consider moving into our business strategies in the upcoming year. And it probably isn't something you've given a lot of thought to yet. For me, it's a part of my practice, and it's a part of what I do to allow myself to stay in the space of happiness, peace, success, and joy. And I want to share it with you. I really want to talk about the gift of silence and stillness, not something that a lot of us who are drivers, entrepreneurs, leaders, executives tend to embrace because we may view it as a waste of time just because of some of the old stories we're carrying around about what success looks like, what it means to be a successful business person or a human being. And I want to change that a little bit today because I want to share with you really the hidden secret of stillness and silence. It is so golden in my practice that it is probably one of the key drivers that allows me to have success and make really powerful decisions. So number one thing for us to consider is we're not tired. Chances are we're just overstimulated. I know for myself early on in my career, I was tired a lot. I was just worn out and I couldn't really figure out what was going on. Was it a lack of sleep? What was it? And really it came down to just there's too much input constantly happening. I mean, think about all of the notifications and noises that we get in the world that happen on the regular, that can create the feeling of being tired just because our brain is constantly on trying to digest and make sense of and process and position and interpret and reply to all of the things, notifications that we get from news feeds, from social media outlets, from all of the apps that we have that can unfortunately send you notifications nonstop. That really helps contribute to being overstimulated and may make us feel tired and worn out. So one thing that I've done is I turned off all notifications. If it's important, I'll find it, to be quite honest with you. So notifications are turned off. Opinions of other people can also be a noise, right? People are more than happy to share their opinion with you, asked or not asked. Expectations, your expectations that other people set on you can create a place of being overstimulated because you're constantly looking, what do they expect? What do they expect? And it pushes you in a way that may not be healthy. And then comparisons is another noise factor. And with the onset of social media and watching other people, we tend to compare ourselves quite a bit. So you may not just be really tired, you may just be overstimulated. What I like about this time of year right now is I hope that some of you might be experiencing some silence and stillness that you haven't experienced throughout the rest of the year because the world is quieting down. We're all taking a moment to ratchet down and enjoy time. Most of us are to enjoy time around the holidays, whatever your holiday that you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate, you're feeling the effects of a portion of the world slowing down. So I hope that right now this slowdown is creating an awareness for you. And this may actually be the first quiet that you've experienced all year long. Now, what's interesting about it is, and I will say this was for me as well in the beginning, silence was extremely uncomfortable for me. It really forces you to deal with things that you've been ignoring or putting off. And so silence can have a note of uncomfortableness because it removes the distractions that gives your brain permission to not focus on some of the important things. It also creates awareness. When you are in a space of silence, You have a different level of awareness of what's important to you because you've given the space to remove some of the distractions. And it also can expose unresolved thoughts. So many of us are running at 100 miles an hour that we don't allow ourselves to tie bows on thoughts that are important to put some finality on and to move forward or to put it in its correct category of importance. So silence might feel really uncomfortable for a lot of us because we don't do it on the regular. And it may not happen very often in your life, in your business. But I will tell you, it is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself because chances are that exhausted feeling really is just overstimulation, and some silence and stillness can help fix that. So if silence does feel uncomfortable to you, it's really just because it's revealing something that you may not want to deal with, that you postponed dealing with, that you weren't aware of until you took a moment to allow the space for it to show up. And it may just be uncomfortable, but just know this, it's not really because it's wrong. I will tell you, I read a really interesting study that talked about entrepreneurs and the impact that maybe how you were raised can impact your sleep or your relaxation. And what I learned is that a lot of us view downtime, quiet, silence, stillness as a waste of time. I was raised by parents who worked really, really hard. And it seemed like my mom and dad were always at work. And that wore off on me. And so I didn't really allow myself a lot of stillness or silence because I felt like that time could be used for much better things. So in the beginning, silence felt really uncomfortable to me and stillness felt like a complete waste of time. Now I embrace it. And I want to talk about that impact it can have for you in your life and your business if you choose to embrace silence and stillness. What I love about silence is it creates awareness. Stillness creates insight. So I want you to think about that. Silence can create awareness and stillness can create insight. Two really important things to have in your business, awareness and insight. There is a difference and yet they both matter. All right. So if you think about it, silence is the removal of noise, external, right? When we want silence, we tend to turn things off around us, TV, music, put maybe on noise canceling headphones, not having music on, but to block out external noises. That's silence. Stillness is simply calming of motion. So you may choose to meditate or you may choose to sit in a particular chair or place in your house that allows you to be still and comfortable. That's really important. So there's a difference. Silence is removal of external noise. Stillness is the calming of motion. For some of us, stillness is challenging. And I want you to think about the impact of these can have. You can be silent, yet still frantic on the inside. That's possible. We can sit in silence and things can still feel utterly chaos. But stillness is what will allow you to get clarity. Stillness is what will allow you to do some emotional regulation. Stillness is what will allow you to make better decision making. Think about that. You know, we can be in silence, but still being frantic about what we're doing. And stillness really forces you to gain clarity, emotional regulation, and ultimately better decision making. In business, silence can reveal what's working, yet silence can also reveal what's not working. It can be a gift in allowing you to discover what matters most. So silence and stillness, when you marry them together and you allow both of those things to occur in your business and life, can really uncover so many opportunities for you that you're either ignoring, you're denying, or you're completely unaware of because you just haven't taken a moment to decompress and allow for the quiet, to allow for some pure, magical thinking and processing. Thoughts don't always just slow down on their own, right? We have to create the space for it. So that's part of the silence and the stillness, is to really allow you to manage your thoughts, those thought strategies at a higher level. And silence can also be a great pattern interrupt. When we are allowing music and TV and working in a crowded coffee shop and being in a space of loud noise, it can allow us to keep running these loops. Silence makes you aware of the loop that you're running and can be a good pattern to interrupt to allow you to have a moment to realize that a loop is happening and we need to stop it. So I do love it for those impact areas as well. It's a practice though. I'm going to ask you to just really lean into this and to pay attention to these talking points because it's a big differentiator in your success or your limit, maybe hitting a goal ceiling over and over and over. It's because you're not doing this. Silence really is number 3. Silence really is where the clarity lives. Answers don't arrive in chaos. And if they do, they're usually answers made out of panic or stress, and they're not the best answers at most times. So I love silence being the place where my clarity lives. Most breakthroughs don't happen during the hustle. The hustle is happening because you took some moment to be silent and discover what was really important that allowed you to get into action. But the hustle is not necessarily the creator of the breakthrough. It's the silence that allowed you to have some really good thinking time, to be interrupting loops that you're stuck in. And I love that. That to me is where my clarity lives, is when I give myself the gift of silence. Sometimes, you think about this, I laugh. Some of our best thoughts come to us in the shower. And part of that is because of, sound deprivation in the shower. It's usually some people have music on, podcasts, whatever. I choose to have that be quiet time. And that allows for some really creative thinking. There's a study that showed, it was interesting, the direction you stand in the shower has an impact on your creativity. If you stand with your back facing the water and the water's hitting the back of your head and the back of your spine, it releases some hormones and chemical makeup in your body that actually allows you to be more creative. So silence in that moment and the position that you're standing in the shower can have an impact on your creativity and what you decide to do. The breakthrough can also happen on a walk. One of my really good friends, Tanya Catan, always says this: when you're stuck or struggling, just get up and go for a 10-minute walk. It changes everything. And not necessarily, with music, just go for a walk with yourself and your thoughts. You're changing the environment and you're creating some silence around you. If you live in a major metropolitan area and there's buses and taxis and cars and noise, you might put in your headphones and turn on the silencing and just be with your thoughts. Taking a walk can be a really great place to experience a breakthrough. You're removing yourself from the noise. It is obvious to say this quiet reflection. If you can create this space in your work environment, your home, your office to have some quiet reflection, that can allow for some true breakthroughs. But clarity requires space, and it requires intentional space. So these things, you can't always just go hop in the shower when you need clarity, but most of us can go on a walk. Most of us can move into a space of quiet reflection and remove the distraction of noise to allow to have a true breakthrough. Remember, breakthroughs don't typically happen when we're in the chaos and the hustle. They're going to happen when you remove the noise and allow the space to show up. So if everything is loud in your world and you do not become intentional about creating this space of silence, everything will feel urgent because it's just constant chaos. It's in that energy of that buzz. But when you take the moment to create the space of silence, it diminishes making everything equally important. So everything is loud, and when everything is loud, everything feels urgent, even when it isn't. So power of silence. This can really help you in your business planning, your vision, your strategic decisions, your leadership conversations. Giving yourself the gift of silence every day is magical in allowing you to move forward in a really powerful way. I want you to think about stillness differently. So number 4 thing to consider is stillness is a performance tool. It's not a pause button. This was one that I had a hard time adjusting in my mind because when I launched my first company, I felt like I was just wasting time if I wasn't constantly doing something. I woke up doing stuff. I went to bed doing stuff. I filled my space in between with constant movement. And I viewed if I was still, that I wasn't strong. It was a sign of weakness, that I was taking a break, that I was lazy. And so I was constantly filling the space with movement. When I embraced the gift and the power of stillness, things changed. I no longer thought that stillness was lazy. I no longer thought stillness was a lack of ambition. I realized that stillness was actually an intentional reset. That's what stillness now means to me. It's a moment that I'm making an intentional reset that's going to allow me to show up differently and in a more powerful way. I know this to be true. High performers, we take thinking time. We get still to allow critical thinking time. We embrace stillness to allow time to reflect versus just constantly moving, constantly moving. Reflection is really important. We allow white space. We allow this space to have our stillness. We know where we can go find it and find comfort in that, or we know how we can create it even in a bit of a chaotic moment. It will, when you get still, here are some things that will automatically improve your focus. When I take the moment to just calm, my focus on what's important becomes crystal clear. It bubbles up and I know exactly what I need to be doing to improve, and that improves my focus on critical actions. This sounds weird because you think when object in motion stays in motion. However, stillness can actually impact your energy. It allows you, right, to gain focus, which will then allow you to put your energy towards the right activities versus spreading that energy out so thin that it diminishes the power of the energy. So stillness actually can create and improve your energy because it narrows it down to where it needs to go. And it helps with your emotional intelligence. And this is really important as leaders, entrepreneurs, business people. Creating that space of stillness really does allow you to see things differently. It allows you to see things clearer. It allows you to give the right things attention, and it has an impact on your overall emotional intelligence. Leaders who don't create stillness eventually end up leading reactively. So if you're in a leadership role, if you're a solo entrepreneur, this is really important. If you don't create stillness, you end up being in this chaotic space of reactive. You're making decisions from a reactive perspective versus focused energy and emotional intelligence. Stillness is an amazing, powerful business tool. Number 5, stillness will reveal what you've been avoiding. So brace yourselves. The first time that I was embracing the work of silence and stillness, it really forced me to deal with some of the thoughts that I was avoiding. I joke about our thoughts if we don't pay attention to them or we try to hold them down. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. I think we've all done this at the beach, in a pool, whatever. You hold a ball underwater and it always seems to pop out and smack you right in the face. It's got a lot of places it could go, but it tends to hit you in the face. For me, when I started practicing silence, I was getting hit in the face with the beach ball because I was suppressing so many of my thoughts. However, silence allowed me to finish my thoughts, right? In the silence, I realized I had a lot of unfinished thoughts. A lot of things were floating around, and this gave me a moment to really reflect on the thoughts that I was not really allowing to come to fruition or be completed. And so silence brought about unfinished thoughts, but in turn, it allowed me to manage my thoughts at a higher level. Silence also brought around some lingering emotions that I was avoiding, maybe some frustration, maybe some anger, maybe some sadness. Those things, things don't always work out for us as entrepreneurs in our business world. And so there are some lingering emotions that you just don't deal with when you don't allow yourself the time to process them. So silence allows that to happen. The other thing that silence will allow you to realize is, where are you out of alignment? Where are you out of alignment? For me, it's an indicator when my business values are not being met. When I've allowed myself to make decisions or act in a way that is going against my values in business, that's a warning flag for me. But I don't necessarily know what's happening until I allow myself to experience the silence. That's when I really have those thoughts. I'm like, what am I doing? That is so out of alignment with what's important to me in business. And I just got sucked into the romance of doing more for the sake of feeling busy and suppressing emotions and feelings and just pushing through, because that's what we do as drivers. So silence can reveal a lot of what we've been avoiding. A lot of people will avoid silence. They get uncomfortable because it forces you to be honest, forces you to deal with thoughts, emotions, misalignment. It highlights what is no longer aligned. For me, it was a clear awareness of where I had strayed from my true values of a business owner in the vision of my company and got distracted. It's where the biggest growth has happened for me. And this was really hard for me to wrap my brain around, that becoming silent equaled growth. My old line of thinking was silence equaled death. Silence equaled lazy. Silence equaled, shutting my business down. When the reality is, silence was where the growth really happened. And you'll experience that too if you allow yourself to work through the discomfort or the unfamiliarity of silence. In that moment where growth actually happens in silence, I believe it happens because it creates awareness. And awareness always precedes change, right? We don't change when we're not aware of something. We just keep doing what we're doing habitually, right? 92% of what we do is conditioned habitual behavior. We just move in that direction. But when you allow yourself to have some silence, it creates awareness of opportunity and things that are not really beneficial for you, which then allows you to have amazing change. The other thing that I love about the silence and getting uncomfortable and all the stuff that comes from sitting in silence is it forces you to face what's really happening. And that's where you can make great changes and fix the deficiencies in your business or your life. So silence doesn't create discomfort. It just reveals it. And discomfort, in my opinion, is much like failure, where so many gold nuggets are hiding in the failure. Same thing with the discomfort. Whatever is making me uncomfortable is an opportunity. And there is some great learning hidden in that discomfort. So embrace silence. It's really, really impactful. We are experiencing it right now. We're here in the holiday season, at least here in the States. It's, our last quarter of the year is full of many, many different holidays, different religions, different beliefs. And it is a time that we might be allowing ourselves or experiencing some downtime, and it might be forced because the world is slowing down. Other people are choosing to slow down, which could have an impact on you, on your business. You're not able to talk to as many people. Businesses have slowed down. And so you might be pushed into this at this time of year, and I want you to embrace it. And I also want you to think about all of the things that we've talked about. What if you embrace the silence and stillness year round? I do it on a weekly. Sometimes I do it on the daily. I start in the morning with silence and stillness in my meditation and prayer. Then I move into my day. I start with my exercise and all that fun stuff. But every day I build in silence and stillness because it's a great reflection. So if we did it all year, what would it look like if we scheduled it versus it just kind of happening? Like right now, for some of us, it's just happening because you're forced to slow down. But what if you scheduled it? What would it do? What would it look like? What if you practiced stillness? What if you had a special place in your house, your office, whatever, a park, whatever it is that you can go and be still? We've got some, great seating areas throughout our house that I can go sit in and just be still. It's an area of no work. It's in a different room than my office. It's in a different room than where we live. And it's in a different room than where Reagan works. It's a different room than the kitchen where energy and activity goes on for meals and entertaining. We have created different space for stillness that allows it without distraction. And for me, when I marry stillness and silence together, magical things happen. So what if you did this with intention versus just one time a year because you were forced to deal with it? Practice silence and stillness can be the game changer for your upcoming year. I'm going to invite you to really think about it. What if we just started little? Because it's like anything else, right? It's like any other activity. It's like a muscle that we're going to build. If we're not embracing silence and stillness, and I say, go spend 3 hours a day, an hour in the morning, afternoon, and evening in silence, you might resist it just because it's so uncomfortable and that's such a long period of time. But what if we entered into it like other things and just built up? What if we just had 10 minutes of intentional quiet every day? Just 10 minutes. That could be in the morning when you journal, when you get out of bed. It could be midday. You choose when you want to do it or how many times you want to do it. But what if we just started with 10-minute increments and then started building? For me, I have several times throughout the day where I practice silence. I do it in the morning. I do it prior to breaking for lunch. And then I do it in the evening just to kind of decompress for the day. And like I said, I will combine it with stillness, and that's where the magic really happens for me. And what if during that silent time, we then at the end of it wrote down what came up during that time period? Because I know for me, I sit in that silence and I get some great ideas, or the shower that creates the creativity going, right? And you think, I'm never going to forget this. And by the time I've dried off, gotten dressed, I'm like, well, what was that thought again? So what if we actually just had a book next to us? And when we were done with the silent time and the stillness, we could write down our discoveries during that time. The other thing that I will give credit to that I've learned really from Reagan is not touching my phone in the morning, leaving it on the charger, whatever, and doing the silent and the stillness for when I journal, meditate, pray. And I do not allow for the beeps, the buzzes, the notifications. I just don't. And that is a great way to embrace stillness and silence in small doses. If we're starting small, it's not something you do in the morning. Silent planning session before goal setting is big. If you've been resisting doing a business plan, or you've been resisting setting a goal for next year, for the quarter, for the week, for the day, whatever it is, sit in silence for a while and let your thoughts actually process in a different way that will allow you to become a better planner. I know for me, my business has had greater impact because my priorities are different when I practice stillness and silence. I make very few reactive decisions. When things are chaotic and a decision has to be made, I don't, unless it's life-threatening, like call 911. But for the most part, I can take a pause and show myself as a powerful leader by stepping out of the chaos, doing what I need to do to process silence, stillness, and then make a decision. Because in that silence, I'm allowing myself to really reflect on what really was happening versus the noise and the chaos. And I can make so much better decisions when they're not a reactive decision. I also have experienced exponential growth because my moves are intentional, and they're intentional because I've used the practice of silence and stillness. So moves are more strategic, moves are more impactful. I've had greater growth as a leader and a human being by embracing these two things. I'm going to invite you to think about that, because number 7 thing is silence is where the next version of you is waiting for you. I want you to hear that again. Silence is where the next version of you is waiting for you to show up. If we stay in the chaos, if we stay in the noise, we're not allowing the next version of ourselves to show up. We stay stuck in the old version of us. Some of it's not bad. However, if you're looking for growth and change, silence is where that next version of you is hanging out. So go meet it there and make it happen. This upcoming year, you might not need more goals. You might not need more hustle. You might not need more pressure. You just might need better clarity, clearer thinking, intentional space to practice stillness and silence. Practicing these two things allows you to listen to your intuition, something that a lot of us don't do. I'm going to say this, and it's not meant to female-male issue, but men are less likely to listen to their intuition than women, and intuition could be your biggest gift. Yet if you don't create the space for it to show up and for you to hear it, you're going to miss the opportunity. So silence allows you to hear your intuition. It allows you to reconnect with your values. It allows you to see your true direction. I'm going to invite you to think differently. It's a year of change for a lot of us. 2026 can be your year, or wherever year you're listening to this podcast in. And even if you're listening to it mid-year, not at the end of the year, think about implementing the tactics of silence and stillness. I promise you, if you do it even for 90 days, say, okay, I don't trust you, I'm not going to do it for a whole year. I'm just going to do it for 90 days. Maybe it's just 30 days. Whatever you choose to do, I promise you, your business and life will be different because you did this. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Embrace it. It's not a bad thing. It's not laziness. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of your strength as a leader and an entrepreneur. Team, as always, if you need me, you know how to find me. Pretty easy to find. Just Google me. You can get my email, tony@rethinkcoaching.com. You can find all my social handles and reach me there. Always here to help you out. Go make it a great week and be still and be silent. Talk to you soon. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.